Alright, as the title suggests, I got another car. And if you know anything about me, it's another Saturn. And this is a 1993 SC2, and it is a prime example of what you exactly are not supposed to buy. I got it sight unseen off the internet, it arrived on a trailer, it's broken, and it was someone else's project car. So you probably shouldn't do it, but I did it anyway because it was cheap. So let's take a look at this unit and see. We'll start on the outside, I guess, here. So you got the very first style rear end with those in the trunk part there. I think they fitted a different spoiler. I don't believe that's a Saturn spoiler. I could be wrong. I'm not so sure on anything between 91 and 94-ish, but that's quite different than the one on my green one, and that's a 95. We got a set of 18-inch Motegis. I'm not sure what they are. I couldn't find them. They might be discontinued by now. And on those Motegis are some Nitto NTO1 225/40 18s. So I want to guess these are probably an 18-inch wide wheel or an 8-inch wide wheel, but I'm not sure. I haven't pulled them off yet. So yeah, they put some serious rubber on it. It appears as though it is on the H&R race springs, the step up from the sport springs, because it sits a lot lower than my H&R sport spring car, and yet it's definitely on factory shocks. So we got leather interior, which I think is factory, but they might have swapped it. I'm not sure. It was a gray interior that they painted black. I'm not sure if they switched in black door cards or painted that and it just hasn't come off yet. They put in a Momo steering wheel. That's actually not a bad one. I'll probably keep that. Apparently a hammer was a necessary install tool for that tack. Okay. Yeah, the gauge thing says 130, but that's wrong. I'm pretty sure the one that came in the parts pile that I got with this car is the right one, and it says 260 something, which would make a lot more sense. Whole lot of painted interior parts. Mystery switches, have no idea what they do. Gauges, sort of, kinda installed where the ashtray goes poorly. We got some volts, we got some boost, and we got some oil pressure. So at least they were watching their oil pressure. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. They put in the pedals out of an ion, I believe. We'll pop that. A whole lot more electrical stuff that I don't know what's what. I think that's to run the tack, because they must have had problems running the tack. In the glove box, we have that thing. So this, from my research, is a Greddy E-Manage piggyback ECU that, from my understanding, was never actually tuned, but it is wired in there. I don't know if it does any self-learning or anything, I'm not sure. But if you haven't figured it out yet, this car is boosted. They put a turbo in here. But I don't know. My dad is helping me find a way to get into this thing. We're gonna try to set up a laptop that runs, you know, something between Windows 2000 and Windows 7. And the only software is for the E-Manage Ultimate that I've found, and I'm hoping it's the same software for this. And then I can maybe figure out if this is gonna be useful to me. Because if I can tune with it, then I'm satisfied. I'll use it. But if not, then I'll probably yard this out, and I'll probably just get rid of the factory computer and throw in a Haltech Elite 1500, because I'm already familiar with their software and their stuff. So that will be my plan if I can't get this to work, because, well, hey, this was free and came with the car, and if I can use it, I'd like to. But I'm also under the assumption that it's pretty old at this point, and might not be worth my time to try to figure it out. I don't know how user friendly it would be. All right, so here's what we've got going on under the hood, which is quite a bit of some disaster. So there's the unit, right? So they custom built a manifold, and apparently they figured they could get away with wastegating only off of the second cylinder for some reason. I'm not sure if that even worked. From my understanding, this turbo is off of a Cummins of some sort. They took the compressor side off the Cummins, and then they machined down something on the exhaust turbine side of the Cummins unit and made it fit into a T3 housing to get it to put on this manifold. And then they cut the middle chunk out of the subframe to run the exhaust through, which is kind of strange, I thought, but it's kind of haphazardly thrown together. And then since the ECU was never tuned, all they did was run a bad engine coolant temperature sensor to try to flood the motor, but they didn't unplug the IAT to flood more gas in there. But also they put in the 3rd gen lower tie plate in the bottom. It's got 1st gen rods with 3rd gen pistons, so they lowered the top piston height by about 60 thou, and the math would work out that they reduced the compression from 9.5 to 1 to about 6.5 to 6.8 to 1 compression to make it safe for boost. So that was their trick with that. They also did something. Apparently there's an LSD in this transmission, so that's also kind of cool. We got a blow-off valve, and yeah, 5-inch intake for a Cummins. This is much smaller than a Cummins, people. This is not a Cummins. But my only guess is that this thing spools up really fast, and this would produce a lot of boost really quick. Like, that is a lot of compressor being spun by a very small turbine. Like, I don't know how this would work, so I'm gonna try to use this setup just because I'm curious. I just want to see what it does. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I don't know. I really can't say. But what I can say is that I'm probably not going to use this chassis for anything. I'll pull it apart like I did the other cars I had earlier in a couple episodes ago when I pulled apart the gray one and then showed you that I also pulled apart my old black one. I'll probably do the exact same thing to this car, and I'll yard out what I want. Oh yeah, right. They also shoved an intercooler in there, so we got a front mount. So I'll probably keep everything that I figure is of any use to me, and I'll probably put it into this car, which is what I bought this car for. I wanted to turbo this one. And then this one came along real cheap, so I bought it, hoping that maybe there's some stuff I can use on it, but I don't really figure it's worth my time to try to fix this car and clean up everything to the way I'd want it, just because of the damage done to the interior, installing all the gauges and all the smashing and hacking that was done in here. I'm not really a fan of that. I'd like to do it more like an OE plus, so everything looks, you know, fairly nice and decent. But so that's pretty much my plan with this. Is I'm going to strip this thing. I'm going to keep these leather seats. I'll probably put those in the green one too, and the nice black. The carpet's actually fairly nice in here too for its age, for being a 93. So yeah, that's probably what's going to be the next episode, is is, yeah, we're gonna start yarding this car apart. We're gonna diagnose, because there's it blows oil, blows blue real bad. Everyone's been telling me it's probably the valve stem seals. Like the guy who sold me the car said it's valve stem seals. And the bottom end is knocking, so they probably threw a rod bearing at some point. But we'll get in there and we'll yard it all apart and we'll find out. That belt has seen better days, and we'll see what's good, what's not, and what went wrong. And that should be a good time anyhow. And yeah, and then we'll start yarding this car apart, and we'll start making this one the turbo car, because this one's already in fairly good shape. It's in better shape. This one's missing a lot more clear coat, and it's a lot more two-toned, right? And then I don't know what I'm going to do with the wheels. I'll probably keep them and maybe put them on the wife's car. I think they'd look good on the wife's car. But I don't know. I wouldn't have quite gone with a drag tire, almost a drag tire setup on something so big. I would have probably gone with like a 15-inch, 15 by 8, and then put, you know, beefier rubber on there so you actually have something that's not so hard and solid and unforgiving. I think this would want to wheel hop a lot more and not bite as good. But I don't know. The more I look at this car, the more I think these guys they built it to hustle street races is what I think they were doing with it. Right? It's put together to basically work and run, and that's it. It's not pretty. It's not nice. I think it's just built to go. So, and on a budget, but obviously some money was spent on the tires, the wheels, the LSD. You know, I'm gonna assume since they modified a Cummins turbo, they came across that at some point for next to nothing. And then just made it work. But there was a parts pile that came with this car, and I already filmed that segment, so we're gonna jump back in time, but this will pretty much be the end of the episode at the end of that. So yeah, we'll jump back in time to the parts pile that came with this car and all of the other stuff that I got with it. Alright, so I got the parts pile unloaded from that turbo car I just bought, and these are all the parts that came with it. That is apparently a ported and polished cylinder head, but I'm not sure because we'll unwrap it. Got a couple extra engine blocks. The cylinders are not great. I don't know if you can see that, but there's more than surface rust in both of them. They can be saved. We can bore them over and run bigger pistons, or we can bore them and sleeve them. That's not a big deal. A couple spare axles, add to the collection. This is apparently a bucket of pistons and rods. A spare intake manifold from a first gen with the aluminum fuel rail and the short stubby injectors, which kind of makes injectors for this project a little bit more of a pain in the ass to source. Chunks of transmission casing with apparently chunks of transmission gear. Wonderful. I've never taken apart a transmission before, so I don't know how that's supposed to go together if I do it. A spare first gen gauge cluster. And something you don't normally get on a car that comes with wheels, I actually got the keys to take the wheels off. So that's kind of cool. Spare belt. That's nothing special. Here, what's in this box? Oh, ooh. These might work. I don't know what they are. We'll get them flow tested, I guess. I guess they're for a Saturn Ion Redline. Or at least that's what the box says. I suppose I could look up that part number and find out what they actually are, if those are actually what came in this box. Who knows? These cranks are no good. The rust is, I don't know, you might be able to underground them, grind them if they haven't been underground already. That one's clearly been spun. That one's had a rod spin on it for sure. Oh, I thought I felt something. Yeah, no. Those are probably not savable. Those are probably junk. I don't know what that is. I have a suspicion it has something to do with the previous turbo. A spare oil pan. Another box of pistons and rods. We got a lot of pistons and rods with this deal apparently. And then there's this crate, which is apparently heavy. Hey, so we got transmission gear select housings, 2 of them. We got more pistons and rods. We got throttle body. We got seals. Throw out bearing, it looks like, in there. No, maybe not. Transmission crap, I'm assuming. Silicon joiners. Throttle body. Wait a second, I have to measure this. I wonder if these guys actually ended up getting themselves a... That looks weird. I don't think this is a Saturn part. I think they might have tried to do some kind of throttle body change on her too. 3rd gen tie plate. Basically looks like the oil windage tray, but has bolt holes to attach to your mains. A little bit of lower strength. More fuel rails with injectors. Transmission parts. Another oil pan. That's for like a BMX or a pedal bike. I don't know where that goes on the car. Okay. Weird. Yeah, it looks like this is a box full of disassembled transmission with a couple of ignition modules. 1st gen ignition modules. Okay. 1st gen rails. Interesting. Alright, so that's everything that came with it. Oh. Well, let's open up this head. Alright, well, there's camshafts in here. Not grease on them, but this doesn't look great. It's going to need a good cleaning. No intake cam mod. We're running an intake and exhaust cam. I don't know why they wouldn't have done it, but they didn't. I will. Okay, now, they said this thing was ported and polished. And, nope, that wasn't touched. It's just a cylinder head, boys. Oh no, they ported the intake side and left the exhaust. So it is ported, I guess, on the intake side of things. Oh, full flat-faced valves. This is interesting. Huh. Alright, that's kind of cool. Alright, well, we'll see. We'll take it all apart anyway. I'll give it a good going over and we'll make sure everything is good on it. Clean it up or whatever. And then there's this box here. Should have some crankshafts in it. Alright, so I guess in that box we had a meh crank and a good crank. At least they packed it good. It's packed in grease, it's clean, it's nice. Just needs everything cleaned off. I see why it's meh. There's a little bit of discoloration there. But other than that, I'll measure it and we'll see if it's all in spec. If it is, then I got no problem putting that in the motor. Okay, so we got them both out, and the good crank is in good shape, but there is a problem. And this here is the difference between a 3rd gen and a 2nd gen crankshaft. This has 8 counterweights, that has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Although being heavier, this one's better balanced, which would be better, because a better balanced engine is better. So I would probably still run that crank over that one just for the balance of it. But yeah, that's everything all unboxed, so we'll see what we can do to get this thing running and go hurt some feelings with it.